we are live with some a little bit different build than last week. The main deck 100% still the same. Brian Boss's list he posted from Twitter about a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. For the current Nadu ban list waiting room. Sideboard, it needs some adjustments. Primarily trimming this, or trimming Underworld Breach, trimming Harsh Mentor, trimming the Pick Your Poisons, and Run Afoul. I think these are mainly got to be for the One Ring, any type of artifacts, and I honestly haven't looked at the new stuff yet, Space Predator, so I don't even know if there are any. I mean, I saw there were some Prowess-esque creatures that we're seeing play in Pioneer, but to my knowledge, no one's really been testing them in Modern, because I really haven't been able to play the last week or so since Bloomburrow came out. So, I can honestly say I don't know. But we trimmed these 5 cards, the 2 Pick Your Poisons, the 1 Run Afoul, 1 Harsh Mentor. Oh, the links? Too expensive. 4 mana is just too much for that effect in Modern. Maybe you can play it in like Boros midrange, the energy deck, but it's too slow and clunky for Prowess. As far as the sideboard here, we trim these 5. 2 Pick Your Poisons, I mean, they have targets, but it's not the best card, especially if that's your anti-artifact card. It really just gets jammed by Chalice like the rest of your deck. I mean, yes, it kind of answers Murktide Regent, can sometimes catch Frog if your opponent gives a flying for some reason. Run Afoul, much the same thing. 3rd copy of Harsh Mentor, well, if you were playing a bigger event, you'd probably want to leave this 3rd Harsh Mentor in. In the leagues, honestly, I haven't run into that much Nadu, so it feels kind of like a wasted slot. And then Underworld Breach, I understand the thought behind it, wanting a 5th Questing Druid-esque thing, but I just don't think... What's up, Foz? I just don't think this card's the best in a deck that's more about the spells than it is, the traditional Prowess decks where you can like load up on baubles or load up on bolts, or a couple cantrips. I mean, this can potentially close out the game, refill your hand, etc., but I haven't been the hugest fan of it. And then we're going to test Gigantha. It does reveal some information, although most people revealing Gigantha these days is energy. We put 2 Unholy Heats in the place of the Run Afoul / Pick Your Poison, just because it answers most of the creatures that we're looking to answer. And then 2D Rev, I mean, this could be any number of things. This could be Destructive Revelry, this could be a Braid, this could be, what is the name of the card? Meltdown, it could be Shattering Spree. I'm just going with D-Rev for now, just as a kind of a hybrid Wear Tear card. And that's pretty much the list. Last week we ran into a boatload of Boros Energy, or just different energy variants. Seemed to do alright against that. We did get a little bit smacked around by the Orzhov scam list. I think a couple weeks prior we ran into a bunch of Eldrazi Tron-esque decks. So, still kind of trying to get the right balance with this deck. I think the main deck was pretty close to where you probably want it to be. The sideboard, I wanted to do a little bit tweaking, at least towards what I prefer. So, Boss's list might have been better for higher end metas, especially the 3rd Harsh Mentor and no Gigantha. Higher end metas being challenges, challenge plus events on MTGO, plus RCQs, any of that kind of stuff. Since Wizards continues to have us in the Nadu ban waiting room for some reason. Why they insist on, not banning things like Grief and Yeah, we can't keep the Grief in Legacy and Nadu in Modern. I don't know. So the reason this is clearly a mulligan, no creatures, can't keep it. This one's a bit, I mean, obviously we have to keep it, but in terms of cards that we ditch, I think Assault Strobe's probably the card here, just because we're not sure what deck we're playing against. Hotashi is a content creator, because this is Daybreak Hotashi, and I've heard, of course we're going to run into... Okay, got a soul, sure. Just got the main phase bolting this. Could have played Mishra's Wobble here to try to draw another land. I think if you're our opponent, you take either one of the prowess creatures or not that I think Lava Dart's going to really change anything here, but because if they have a removal spell, it's going to be, you know, Fatal Push, March, etc. So Mardu. I feel like we're going to get hit by an Amped Raptor here. We're just going to play that and pass. I think we're getting Pelagied. This opponent's going to play Flage. Our Swizzle Spear here. All right. Do that. Shadowy Backstreet, sure. That tapped out, and then they died. Four copies of Questing Druid, 2 copies of Snakeskin Oil, 2 copies of Tormod's Crypt. Alright, so Mutagenic Growth a little bit better in the face of burn spells. Like, what do I shave here? Okay. I do think we keep this, but there's a good chance, you know, our creature just gets thought seized or whatever, but... Goddess Souls, sure. Bolt the Goddess Souls just because I think it's kind of trash. Well, not I shouldn't say trash. It's easier for a deck to kill Ocelot Pride than it is. Kind of leaves us with a weird. Okay. Card on top, that's mildly terrifying. They thought sees us, which of course they do. Goodbye, Slick Shot. It's annoying because it's just good enough. I think we have to keep it. Mm-hmm. Actually, a unique take on the deck. I think my opponent was a little overeager at Conceding, but we'll take it. I'm not familiar with their content, but I know Young Dingo frankly talks about Hitachi, so I'm guessing he's known in the content creation community. Alright, the sand is... it's fine. I think the biggest problem with it is kind of the too many creatures, not enough payoff side of things, but I think we'll lead on Mountain into Soul Scar as the only non-hasty creature going around here. Funny part is how much what Gigantha used to mean. Gigantha a couple months ago used to mean zoo. Now it means usually storm or energy. So it's almost becoming as ubiquitous as Lurrus was back in the day. You know, when like 40 or 50% of the meta played Lurrus. Really find it funny though, if Lurrus was currently unbanned, would people lean towards Lurrus or Flage? Don't know. I did see a little bit of discussion on the Prowess Discord about this build of the deck. You know, people going, "Oh, it was built for a specific meta." You know, it was built for the Storm slash Nadu meta, and you know, just play Infect, yada yada yada. I think like one thing this deck has over Infect and Hammer, which are probably the two closest decks you could compare it to. Infect has prismatic ending, sure. Infect has a bunch of X1s and basically plays no removal. Hammer plays a bunch of... Okay, so we're up against... Well, that's absolutely terrifying. Can we threaten lethal here? I mean, we're not playing around Solitude because we're just not. Opponent's got a land. Unfortunately, we're going to be just short here. goes to 1. There's Goryo's. If they have Ephemerate, obviously we're in some trouble, but is there anything we can realistically do against this? So we attack with both of these. Presumably they block Gristlebrand, Earth Gristlebrand. I would have to double shoot my Slick Shot. It would only go to a 5/2. And we just die, so. I mean, we need to make our opponent do it, but we're dead here. Because maybe for some reason they decide not to block. Doesn't seem likely, but it is possible, I suppose. Alright. This is one matchup where having Run Afoul or Pick Your Poison would be an okay thing, I guess. Tormod's Crypt in. Snakeskin Veil in. Lava Dart's kind of garbage here. This is kind of a racing situation, kind of can be an attrition-y mess. Could want Unholy Heat potentially. Maybe I bring these in over the 2 mutagenic growths. Just because, you know, all their removals either Fatal Push, Prismatic Ending. It's not bolts that these like kind of hard counter. Could, you know, potentially bring in a Harsh Mentor to quasi-counter Gristlebrand, but I'm doing alright today, Foz. Taking a break after a long, difficult week of work stuff, so. This is a matchup that obviously is tricky because, you know, partially they're a graveyard deck. And partially they're quasi-value mid-range deck. So, and this is a matchup that will persist post-Nadu banning, so. Cannot keep the No-Lander. This hand isn't exciting, but I do think we keep it. Do I even put back here a Bolt? It's either Bolt or Soulscar. Guess we'll risk them having. Well, my company went through a round of layoffs this week, so I'm just glad to still have a job. So. Yeah, unfortunately I did know a couple people that did lose their jobs, so is kind of rough in some regards. How's things with your job, by the way? Sure. Can only assume that my opponent's hand is like ridiculously heavy on removal. So the reason I didn't go for it there is I'm kind of hoping my opponent will tap out for something stupid here, and maybe we can get them. But if they have Solitude, none of that particularly matters. Looks like they're going to tap out for Falagi. Nope, Frog. Okay, sure. Well, this is going to be an interesting contest of whatever. Obviously, can't play around Solitude. We don't have a shielding effect, so it is what it is. Presume they're playing us like pitch a bunch of cards and block. Yep. And this deck is rapidly becoming kind of very similar to the blue-black scam list that's going to get banned the heck out of Legacy. So, yikes. Yikes, that's not... I can only imagine, man. Nice, O'Doyle. Speaking of combos, did you know you were talking about the giants and escaping them, or the stifling the ETB triggers so you don't have to escape? Did you know if you escape with Underworld Breach, they stay in play too? I mean, kind of seems like, oh, it's an escape thing. Yeah, I'd think about it. But I didn't realize that Underworld Breach, you can get back your giants for their normal casting cost instead of their 4-mana escape cost. Plus only 3 cards instead of like 5 or 6. Seems decent enough. It's got one more land than we ideally like, but... yeah, that's... And then I was watching a... I think it was a Young Dingo YouTube video, and his opponent escaped a Croxa off of a Underworld Breach. So I was thinking maybe that would go good with Flage. Speaking of Nadu, I find it absolutely hilarious that this deck was basically nowhere to be found for several weeks, and then all of a sudden Wizards is like, derpa derpa, I'm going to leave this deck around, and people have risked playing it some more. So It's like the deck's getting banned. It is possibly the best modern deck of all time. So what was it? How do I word this without going too hyperbole? So not only does it have no losing matchup, it also won a no ban list modern format from the yeah, I saw Eldrazi Summer too, and there were decks that could compete against Eldrazi. Amulet Titan and Affinity both had a period of time where they were playable against Eldrazi. Didn't say they weren't always favored against Eldrazi, but they at least could make a game of things. Nadu, basically every Matrix I've ever seen, there is no matchup that yeah, sure. Alright, so that's just lethal, right? 3, 4, 5, 6. So. Yeah, in fact, could give it a little bit of issues. But there are currently no decks in Modern that are favored against it. Burning Shoal on Elf. I don't think Burning Shoal was legal when... Oh, yeah, in fact, at the first Modern tournament. Got it. So what card was I going to board out? 2 Unholy Heat, 2 Harsh Mentor, 4 Lavo Dart out, I think. But yeah, there was a Matrix... See if I can find it. This is a matrix of matchups from paper events from 620 to 729. The only matchup that Nadu has against two non-mirror matches are Living End and Dimir Control. And both of them are within one match of being 50-50. So, and yikes. But basically, the data, even though people haven't been playing it as much, continues to say that Nadu just dumpsters everything. Yeah, but they don't need Shuko. They have a Outriders in core that does the same thing that they can chord for, or Dryad Arbor? By the way, I shouldn't have kept this hand just because of the one land nonsense. I basically kept it because of Harsh Benter, but I don't think we should have kept this hand. I should have been more disciplined and mulliganed. Oh, it is very much a skill deck, but you could argue that Yogg was already that same thing. And it's basically a turn faster Yawgmoth. I should have brought in D-Rev. Malevolent Rumble, huh? Alright, come on, give me a land, please. Yeah, I should not have kept this hand by any means. Haywire Might? Sure. Couldn't care less about Haywire Might, honestly. Probably brought it in for, like, Blood Moon. No, most of the time they win with Shuko, but you can also blow the Shuko up. I mean, Shuko isn't the be-all end-all. Like, you could ban Shuko, but it wouldn't solve the problem. Land, please? Of course not. Alright, well, got punished. I think it says I'm sorry. Did I roll my eyes out loud? This is why this deck is such an annoyance to play against, just because they have so many utility creatures, so many... kind of like Pod, but Pod also didn't have the One Ring attached to it either. So, let's just move on. I screwed up, kept a hand with one tap land, and even though we had Harsh Mentor in hand, it wasn't a good enough reason to keep the hand. So... I think maybe we bring in D-Rev. Over these mutagenic growths, maybe. I think I've worn it before, but I don't know if it was during a stream. I know I've worn it during recording before. Cannot keep the one lander. Sand is fine. What am I putting back? Unholy Heat, maybe? Or do I put back a Salt Strobe? I think maybe I put back a Salt Strobe here. So I could do a couple different things here. I could lead on Basic Mountain, DRC, Bobble. I could lead on fetching a Stomping Ground, but I think I wanted to leave the option of Commercial District. So the opponent fetched with Windswept Heath, even though we knew about the Misty. Forge Tender's annoying. This is kind of what makes Nadu such a pain to deal with, is just the fact that they have so many tools in the Bant colors. No reason really not to attack with Swift Spear here. I mean, yeah, it's 100% a free attack for them, but... or free block, I mean. So there's a decent chance my opponent's chilling on a Endurance, and that's why they kind of kept a slower hand. I mean, don't get me wrong, Forge Tender is potentially very good, but they are going to tap out for a triggers. Definitely didn't want the land. Curious if they... Actually, I guess I should have left Bobble on top. I didn't realize that was all during my... I didn't think that that was all during my upkeep, so... And if I would have done that, then they would have been dead, because I would have had an additional prowess trigger here and here. That's really annoying. At least they can't tap it, so it's not like they're getting a huge advantage from it, other than, you know, obviously they now get a turn with Shuko and whatever creatures. Yeah, I screwed up and gave them a turn they shouldn't have had. Only for one. Forge Tender, sure. Yep, if I would have topped either that Swift Spear or the... Actually, no, the Bobble was the only thing that mattered, because we only had one, or had no mana at that point. So... So unless my opponent goofs here, we're just... dead, I think. So as my public service to non-Nadu players everywhere, I'm just going to make them play it out, because opponents that play decks like this should just be given the nice honor of having their turns take for bloody ever. No, literally not trying to beat the timer, just trying to quite frankly be a little bit bitter that my opponent is playing what they're playing and moving on. That said, this was a loss, so doesn't change the result, but if I would have topped that Mishra's Bobble, we would have won that matchup. So, or even if we wouldn't have won that turn, my opponent would have been forced to chump with the Nadu on the Slick Shot, and who knows if they had another Nadu in hand. So, it's a combination of loose mulligan game 2 and actually, yeah, we'll go ahead and bottom that. Kept a loose hand game 2, and then game 3 missed a line for lethal. So, the Bobble was several cards down, so probably not. Alright, so we're up against a Necropotence deck. Yep. Not quite lethal, but still pretty darn good. And actually, we may not be up against Necropotence. We could potentially be up against Dimir Frogtide, whatever you want to call it. Nope, Necro, damn it. Alright, well. 4 copies of Questing Druid. 2 copies of Snakeskin Veil. D-Rev's a maybe. Holy Heat's a maybe. Definitely don't like Lava Dart in this matchup. It only really kills Bowmaster. Don't like going with this. Mutagenic Growth can quasi-protect in some spots against Bowmaster pings on specifically DRC. So maybe we're just supposed to board these out and 2 Assault Strobes. This hand is got one more land than we ideally like, especially if we're about to get grief scammed, but D-Rev is a middling card in this matchup. Yeah, I noticed a lot of these decks have gone to Inquisition lately, realizing that they're... I'm guessing this is going to be a D-Rev take. Like, if their I was going to say, if their entire hand was based around Necro Dominance, I could see them of taking Destructive Revelry. Could actually get turn 2 Necro Dominance here. If they go pitch cast, grief, sacrifice it, Necrodome, or sacrifice it with, and that looks like we might be up against. Because our opponent pitched a not dead after all, so that tells me a pretty good chance they're sacrificing it to cast a Necrodominance, which means they're almost certainly taking the D-Rev here. Yep. Oh, they have Fatal Push and Frog? I am so confused what their last card is. It's Frog. Modern's a bit of a wild format right now. Kept a 3-lander and drawn 2 more. I was about to say drawn 2 more lands, but instead we've drawn 3 more lands. Okay. If I could ban one card, in current Modern, it would be Nadu. Assuming Nadu is already on the ban list, and I wanted to get rid of one other card in the format, it would probably be Grief. And a card that I would unban, I would probably unban... No, I said if Nadu was already banned, basically. Because I'm assuming Nadu's getting banned. And I would unban either... Twin or Pod. I think creature decks in Modern need... Okay. Well, maybe not. It's kind of hard to say, because creature decks, like normal traditional aggro decks, really need something. What on earth? Am I getting hit with a march of other bullshit? Yeah. Alright, so... Don't think there's anything we can do here because there's no window where we can kill this. Like, I need to cast Assault Strobe on this to enable Delirium, and then I hope that my opponent got sloppy and like pitched a card or something. So alright, Foz, have a good night, man. Maybe I'm not supposed to bring in Harsh Mentor. Like, it really is only good against Frog, specifically. Two-lander, somewhat. I think we try it, but it's obviously not the best hand. Turn one Inquisition again, like always. They're smart, they actually take a Legion Leadership here. This is dangerous, obviously, if they have Bowmaster, but of course they do. Mm-hmm. Alright, so can we set up a kill through a +3, +3, so +4, +3, double strike? So +4, because of the roll token, +3 to the next one is 7. Monstrous Rages. Okay, so 4 power. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 for the Prowess trigger. 6. Yeah, I think we have lethal with this. Obviously, we're not beating 2 and 2 could have been 3 and 1 if I wouldn't have thrown away the games against Nadu. Oh well. One lander against a Gigantha deck. I think specifically because we have Bolt and Lava Dart, I'm going to go ahead and do it. Doing this mainly because I just want to hit lands more than I value prowess triggers necessarily. So now our opponent has Bolt. We don't know what else is in their hand. Apparently the answer is all the removal spells. Alright. Plot, go. We draw a green source and they tap out for Bone Crusher Giant, they're just dead. Or Fable, or really anything. Opponent pitches a card. Yeah. Dashing Monkey, of course. But that's a Swift Spear, which I legitimately don't care about. Land, please. Is bobble enough for lethal here? I don't think so. Actually, with Lava Dart, it might be. Alright, so definitely want Questing Druid. Definitely want Snakeskin Veil. Definitely want Tormod's Crypt. Go down the scale ups. Go down the assault strobes. On the draw, I've been going down a couple of DRCs. It's entirely possible that I should bring in these Unholy Heats too. This hand just doesn't do anything. I mean, if we hit... How do you talk yourself into a bad hand? So, if we hit a second land and start casting these Questing Druids, is this hand enough to justify keeping? We have Bloodstained Mire, Mishra's Bauble, to find land drops, but we also don't have any removal spells, so it's really hard to justify keeping this hand. Other than the fact that it specifically has the grindy cards. So we'll try it for science, but I feel like this is kind of like the Nadu, Game 2 Nadu hand. It's a hand I should know better than keeping. But... DRC, huh? Sure. I think I'm fine with them getting a single token off of this. Like, the token, one of tokens are not relevant in this matchup. So we don't know what they're drawing. They're shocking in pre-combat. That's pretty aggressive. Yeah. All right. Just have double bolt. Okay. We'll keep it. Yep. Should be 3-1 right now, but threw away the match against Nadu, so. So I don't want another land. Lost that pride, sure. It's currently the boogeyman of a lot of formats. Alright, so let's do some math. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13, so 26. So looking at tonight's league, we lost to Goryo's, which I have no idea how that match goes. It doesn't feel like the greatest of matchups with their specific style of removal and combo-esque finish. We beat up beat two energy decks, beat blue or mono black Necro splashing Psychic Frog, which sure, unique angle attack for their deck, and we beat Nadu game 1, lost game 2 in part because I kept a really loosey-goose hand. And then game 3, I didn't do the math right on potentially keeping a Mishra's Bauble on top of the library during my upkeep. And then we didn't force our opponent to trade with their Nadu on a with a Slick Shot, which would have killed them or forced them to trade away Nadu. They had Yavimaya, and they had the One Ring to buy a turn for their Urza Saga to go off at exactly 1 life. So, even though we went 3-2, and there were 2 loose keeps and 1 pretty bad math miscalculation, I think the deck continues to perform well, in part because people underestimate what Slick Shot can do, and in part because the deck's just powerful. Like, it has its problems. It's not the perfect modern deck by any means. It struggles against struggles against non-red based removal decks. So, you know, it would probably struggle against your Juns, your Rakdos Scams, your Goryo's Vengeances, your Orzhov Scam that we lost to last week. So I think it's okay against Eldrazi, especially as Eldrazi has kind of moved away from Chalice a little bit. And then thus far, we've had a fairly good run against Energy, especially the last 2 leagues. I think we're 4-2 against various Energy variants. So, I think I'm going to continue tweaking this deck, but I'm not sure, like, what the next iteration is. Like, the main deck feels pretty close to where you want it to be. It's really just, you know, kind of tweaking the sideboard to, you know, having answers to certain things. Harsh Mentor is really only going to be there as long as Nadu's in the format. I think once Nadu goes, that's probably either going to become Tunnelingus or just other more utility cards. You know, maybe Blood Moons, maybe Maguses, maybe more Shatter effects. Depends on really how the format shakes out post Nadu ban. But I think this deck's got legs. I know a lot of people crap talk it in the Prowess Discord, saying it's, you know, built for the Nadu meta, but if Energy is going to be the main, especially non-Jeskai Energy, is going to be the main, like, antagonist in the format once that gets banned, I think I'm happy in a Necro Eldrazi Energy deck taking this deck in and being like, okay, I lose to non-Necro Black Mace midrange and take my chances. So, anyways, as always, if you like our content, don't forget to give us a follow over on Twitch, give us a subscribe on YouTube, MTG Nexus, and hope to see you for next week's stream. I'll still be working on this list. I don't think the Gigantha really seemed to punish us much this list, or this league. I don't really think I missed Pick Your Poison or Run Afoul, except that one corner case scenario against specifically Gristlebrand. So, anyways, hope everybody has a great week, and see you for next week's stream.